Welcome to the Biotech Podcast, your search for all things related to genetic engineering and biotechnology. I'm your host, Daniel, and today we have an exciting episode lined up for you. We'll be delving into the fascinating world of genetic engineering and exploring its applications, along with the ethical considerations that arise. But before we dive in, let's talk a moment about Season 1, Episode 10 of the popular TV series Black Orphan. Now let's talk about Orphan Black TV series. The series focuses on Sarah Manning, one of several genetically identical human clones, and later on some of the other clones. The series raises issues about the moral and ethical implications of human cloning and its effect on identity. In episode 10 of Orphan Black, titled The Genetic Crossroad, the storyline brings attention to the captivating realm of genetic engineering. This episode revolves around the discovery of a secret laboratory where cutting-edge genetic experiments were conducted. The protagonists uncover a plot involving the creation of genetically modified individuals, raising questions about the ethical implications of such endeavors. But is this TV series based on a true story? No. As far as we know, Orphan Black is not based on that. According to the creators, it really just started with the idea of what you would do if someone who looked exactly like you jumped in front of a train in front of you. And then, Wim Manson, one of the creators, had conversations about human cloning with his scientist friend, Kojima Herder, who became a science consultant on the show and was the inspiration for the character of Kojima. The fictional portrayal provides an interesting backdrop to our discussion on the real-world genetic engineering and its ethical considerations. Genetic engineering is a cutting-edge field of biotechnology that involves manipulating the genetic material of living organisms to achieve desired traits or outcomes. Through the precise manipulation of DNA, scientists can introduce new genes, modify existing genes, or remove unwanted genetic material, opening up a range of possibilities for advancements in various fields. The foundation of genetic engineering lies in our understanding of genetics and the structure of DNA, the molecule that carries genetic information. Since the discovery of the structure of DNA by James Watson and Francis Crick back in the 50s, scientists have been exploring ways to harness this knowledge to modify and control genetic traits in organisms. The primary objective of genetic engineering is to improve or enhance the characteristics of organisms, including plants, animals, and microorganisms. This can be achieved by introducing specific genes that code for desired traits, such as increased crop yield, resistance to pests or diseases, enhanced nutritional value, or improved tolerance to environmental conditions. The techniques employed in genetic engineering involve the isolation, manipulation, and recombination of DNA fragments. Scientists can extract genes from one organism and insert them into the genome of another, thereby transferring desirable traits from one species to another. This process allows for the creation of genetically modified organisms, called GMOs, that exhibit novel characteristics not naturally found in their species.
In medicine, genetic engineering has paved the way for the production of therapeutic proteins, the development of gene therapy, and the advancement of personalized medicine. In industry, genetically engineering microorganisms are utilized to produce value, pharmaceuticals, enzymes, biofuels, and other important products. While genetic engineering offers tremendous potential for innovation and improvement, it also raises ethical, social, and environmental concerns. The deliberate alteration of an organism's genetic makeup raises questions about safety, long-term effects, and unintended consequences. The regulation and responsible of genetic engineering techniques are essential to ensure the ethical and sustainable development of this technology.
In the medical field, genetic engineering holds great promise. Researchers are exploring gene therapies to treat genetic disorders such as cystic fibrosis and muscular dystrophy. Additionally, the development of genetically engineered bacteria and yeast has revolutionized the production of pharmaceuticals, including insulin and vaccines.
However, along with these advancements come ethical concerns. The ability to modify the genetic code of living organisms raises questions about the potential risk and unintended consequences. Critics argue that genetic engineering could lead to unforeseen environmental impacts, the creation of designer babies, and widening social inequalities, striking a balance between scientific progress and ethical consideration is crucial.
To shed light on the ethical implications of genetic engineering, we have a special guest joining us today, Taejong Kim, an expert in biotechnics, will help us navigate this complex terrain. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tai, could you elaborate on some of the key ethical concerns surrounding genetic engineering?
Certainly, one of the main concerns revolves around the concept of playing God. Critics argue that altering the genetic makeup of organisms goes against the natural order and may have unintended consequences that we cannot predict. Additionally, there are worries about the potential for genetic discrimination and the creation of genetic haves or and have-nots. Another ethical consideration is informed consent. When it comes to genetic engineering in humans, it is essential to ensure that individuals fully understand the risks and benefits before making decisions about modifying their own or their children's DNA. Furthermore, we need to consider the long-term societal impact and implication of genetic engineering practices. The ethical issues surrounding genetic engineering highlight the need for careful consideration and regulation of this technology to ensure that it is used responsibly and ethically.
Those are indeed critical issues to address. Are there any regulators in place to govern the ethical use of genetic engineering?
Yes, there are regulatory bodies and guidelines in many countries to oversee genetic engineering practices. These regulations aim to ensure safety, transparency, and ethical standards are upheld. For example, in the United States, the use of genetic engineering in humans is governed by the Food and Drug Administration (FDA) and the National Institutes of Health (NIH). The, the FDA is responsible for protecting the public health by assuring the safety, efficacy, and security of human and veterinary drugs, biological products, medical devices, our nation's food supply, chemicals, and products that emit radiation. The NIH also has guidelines for human gene therapy research that address ethical and safety issues.
Now, let's continue with another interesting topic: patenting life. Do you have exclusive rights to your DNA? Should you, like patent holders, be able to keep your genetic information confidential? The issue of patenting life and the ownership of genetic information is a complex and controversial topic that has sparked intense debates in the fields of law, ethics, and science. The question of whether individuals should have exclusive rights to their DNA and the ability to keep their genetic information confidential raises a range of considerations and conflicting perspectives. To shed light on this topic, we have another special guest joining us today, Leslie Nunes. She will help us navigate this complex terrain. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you so much for inviting me here, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, let's get right into the point. One viewpoint argues that individuals should have the right to maintain control over their genetic information, treating it as personal property. Supporters of this perspective believe that genetic information is deeply personal and private. They argue that granting exclusive rights to individuals can protect their privacy, prevent unauthorized use or exploitation of their genetic data, and provide them with the autonomy to decide how their genetic information is used, shared, or even monetized. Let's explore the rationale further.
Generic information is purely personal. It's like a roadmap to who we are as individuals. Granting exclusive rights empower individuals to protect their privacy and have a say in how their generic data is utilized. It also opens up opportunities for them to benefit economically if they choose to do so.
On the other hand, there are arguments against granting exclusive rights to genetic information. Critics of exclusive ownership contend that genes are naturally occurring entities and part of the human common heritage. They argue that granting exclusive rights to genetic material could impede scientific research, limited access to life-saving treatments, and hinder progress in the field of medicine. Let's hear their concerns.
Genes are shared legacy of humanity and exclusive ownership. Undermines the collaborative nature of a specific research. We must ensure equal access to potential life-saving treatments and prevent discrimination based on generic profiles. Exclusive control over generic information raises ethical and societal changes.
The current legal landscape surrounding patenting life and genetic information varies across countries. Some jurisdictions allow for the patenting of specific genetic sequences or modified organisms, while others have stricter regulations or even outright prohibitions on patenting living organisms. This diversity reflects the ongoing debate and the need to be carefully balance individual interests with societal benefits. Let's explore the complex considerations involved.
The debate around paternity life and the ownership of generic information is a complex tapestry. It involves privacy rights, individual autonomy, scientific progress, healthcare access, and the potential for exploitation. Striking a balance between protecting individuals' interests and promoting public welfare is changing but necessary.
To navigate these intricate issues, many countries and organizations are actively engaged in discussions to establish legal frameworks and ethical guidelines. These efforts aim to ensure the responsible use of genetic information while promoting scientific advancement and public welfare. Let's reflect on the path towards resolution.
Careful consideration of the ethical, legal, and social implications is essential. We need ongoing dialogue between scientists, policymakers, legal experts, ethics, and the general public to shape a future where generic information is respected, harnessed for progress, and accessible to all.
Thank you, Leslie, for sharing your insights on the complex topic of patenting life and genetic information. It's clear that this issue requires ongoing discussions and considerations from various perspectives.
Absolutely, Neil. The dialogue surrounding these matters is crucial for shaping policies that strike the right balance between individuals' rights and societal benefit.
Indeed. Now, let's shift our focus to another intriguing aspect of genetic engineering: gene editing technologies. Gene editing has gained significant attention in recent years due to its potential to modify the DNA of living organisms with unprecedented precision. Could you provide our listeners with an overview of gene editing techniques and their implications?
Generally, Daniel, gene editing refers to the deliberate alteration of an organism's DNA using specialist tools and techniques. One of the most well-known gene editing technologies is CRISPR-Cas9, which stands for Closely Regulating Interspace Short Palindromic Repeats, and CRISPR proteins 9. CRISPR-Cas9 acts as a pair of molecular scissors that can target specific DNA sequences and make precise changes, such as deleting, inserting, or modifying generic materials. The potential applications of gene editing are vast. In agriculture, it could lead to the development of crops with enhanced nutritional content or increased resistance to pests and diseases. In medicine, gene editing holds promise for treating genetic disorders by correcting disease-causing mutations. However, the use of gene editing in human spores of germline cells raises ethical concerns and requires careful scrutiny.
Absolutely. The ability to make heritable changes to the human genome raises profound ethical questions. What are some of the key ethical considerations associated with gene editing in humans?
One of the primary ethical considerations is the distinction between somatic and germline gene editing. Somatic gene editing involves modifying the DNA of non-reproductive cells, which affects only the individual being treated, and it is not passed into future generations. On the other hand, germline gene editing involves making changes to the DNA of eggs, sperm, or embryos, potentially altering the genetic makeup of future generations. The latter raises concern about unintended consequences, the potential for eugenic, and the long-term impact on human evolution. Another ethical consideration is the notion of informed consent and ensuring that individuals of their guardians fully understand the risks, benefits, and long-term implications of gene editing. There is also a need for transparency, oversight, and responsible governance to prevent misuse or unethical application of this technology.
These are indeed critical ethical considerations. To delve deeper into the ethical dimensions of gene editing, Taeyong Kim will share his perspectives on the topic.
Certainly, Daniel, gene editing in humans presents a range of ethical challenges. One significant concern is the potential for unintended consequences or off-target effects of gene editing interventions. There's a need for extensive research through testing and stringent safety measures to minimize risks to individuals undergoing gene editing procedures. Another ethical consideration is the potential for inequality and access to gene editing technologies. If gene editing becomes a mainstream medical intervention, there's a risk that it may exacerbate ex- existing social disparities, creating a divide between those who can afford genetic enhancement and those who cannot.
In conclusion, this podcast episode explored the fascinating world of engineering, focusing on its application and the ethical consideration that arise. It started with a discussion about the fictional TV series Orphan Black and its portrayal of generic engineering, highlighting the distinction between fiction and real-world engineering. The episode then developed into the fundamental of engineering, its advancements in various fields such as agriculture and medicine, and the potential benefits it offers. However, it also emphasized the ethical concerns associated with generic engineering, including the potential risk, unintended consequences, and the need for responsible use and regulation. The podcast touched upon the ethical implications of genetic engineering in the medical field, such as gene therapies and the production of pharmaceuticals. It also addressed the complex topic of patenting life and ownership of genetic information, discussing conflicts, viewpoints regarding individual control and common heritage. Furthermore, the podcast explores the concept of engineering and its implications, particularly in humans. It highlights the ethical considerations surrounding somatic and hormonal gene editing, the importance for informed consent, and the need for transparency and responsible governance. Overall, the podcast provides a comprehensive overview of engineering, its application, and the ethical dimensions that accompany its advancements. It emphasized the necessary of balancing scientific progress with ethical consideration to ensure the responsible and ethical use for this powerful technology.
Thank you so much for listening. See you soon.